Hello. Hello and welcome. Welcome in. Come on. Take a seat or take a stand, you know, or lay down. Whatever you got to do to make yourself comfortable and ready to have some real conversations. Do that, good people. You are back in the building with your humblest of hosts, Soul Expression. And welcome back to the Inner Storyteller. Welcome back to the Ufuluchild. Please consider liking the video. Please. I'm begging. I am not begging, but I am begging in a little bit of a way that you like the video. Subscribe to the channels. It does signal to them people out there and those how to say androids, uh uh cyborg people out there that this channel is worth, putting in front of people that might like it. It also signals that you want to know when I'm live. Also, please understand, if you are here for the first time, that if you are indeed here, then you are in for real conversations. We talk about natural law, we talk about religion, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the great. We talk about money, anarchy, culture, and how mankind is manipulated from the shadows by forces that may not have our best interests at heart, perhaps because they are completely evil. Either way, we are not bashing faith systems here. We are not calling people names for following a tradition of their choice. We are simply examining the psychological affects and effects of the stories we have the most faith in, the ones we have the most stake in, and how those stories help shape society. And that examination has to sit right alongside an honest look at the current human condition, which is slavery. Government is slavery, good people. And the question we have to keep returning to is what can actually be improved with a proper understanding of one's inner storyteller and how it works. And if any of that makes you uneasy, uncomfortable, maybe a little angry, just understand that although you are encouraged to stay, maybe confront some of those feelings, you are indeed also welcome to leave at any time, but not until you like the video. Okay? You can't leave unless you like the video. We are back with Wednesday tea. Good people, Wednesday tea, you know what that means? That means the great Sara Cross is in the building. How you doing today?
Very good. Thank you.
Absolutely. Great to have you back on the show. And great to establish a Wednesday, you know, fun time. Whatever this is going to be, it's going to be awesome. Two minds coming together to speak truth. Maybe we'll have a third or a panel one day, whatever. But yeah, man. Where we left off, we were getting into how your average person has to be cognizant, careful, and courageous in hospitals and dealing with the medical industry at large and the pharmaceutical industry at large. You have to be cognizant. You got to know your stuff, whether that's legally or like ingredients wise or whatever. You got to know some stuff entering this world, and you have to be courageous. You have to be willing to stand up for yourself when they use words and speak in absolutes and are just lying through their teeth. Um, and whatever else I said, you got to be that too. uh, you know, and you and I had well you put forth a really interesting topic to get into today. You were saying that you'd like to look at how the physical laws and non-physical laws work together. And you said both can only function fully or at their maximum capacity when they are regulated within yourself, within the self. And you said the what we usually call on this channel the dark occult, um the sorcerers you call the parasite class, figured out how to make sure people are unable to regulate. And I thought that was a very peculiar word, unable to regulate. So I wrote that quote down directly, and because that's a strong, that's a strong word, but we'll get into that. And the last thing is you said, and the medical industry, as well as big pharma at large, is one of the ways that they do it. So I thought that was very interesting, and of course, as always, want to start by just kind of giving you the floor, let you kind of dive in, and just respond as things come up that trigger my passion.
Yeah, definitely. So, like, I mean, really, I would say, like, if you don't have to deal with the medical industry at all, like, and there's no real reason for you to, like, then don't. Just don't. But if you do, just go in correct. Go in, like, correctly. You know, you got to set aside emotions about however you're feeling about whatever situation. You've got to know the language, have the tools at the ready, and just be able to call it. Because when you have people like that and they're trying to like overstep their authority with you because of whatever policy, again, which are irrelevant and do not matter at all when it comes to your, not just your inherited God-given rights, but even under man's law, they're irrelevant. So understanding those things is vital to being able to being treated like a normal human being when you have to be associated with the medical industry.
And we
And
fleshed this out in a previous episode, but when you
yeah,
say even under man's law, just briefly for the people,
well,
I'm
there's
guessing what you're
yeah,
referencing is like acts of Congress like HIPAA and whatnot that protect certain rights for the
yes,
the client patient.
yes, HIPAA, the HIPAA laws. It is standing, and you can use it. There's a there's a whole list of laws you can look up in regards to what can and cannot be done.
And go
And
see those earlier episodes too, good people.
yeah, and including the Nuremberg Code, and people forget about the Nuremberg Code, and they're like, "Oh, well, that's just a agreement," and I'm like, "No, it's actually holdable. Like that is enforceable. The Nuremberg Code, like the guidelines that they wrote down under the Nuremberg Code, that actually eventually did become something that holds up in law. So like they have to follow that as well. It has to that like and the Nuremberg Code is essentially like no medical experimentation without consent. There's like a whole list of things. So it's like it's good to be familiar with those sorts of documents and have copies of them, have physical copies of them at the ready. Like you want to
Word
have this stuff in your
says the Nur
toolbox.
says the Nuremberg Code is a set of 10 ethical principles for human experimentation created in 1947 in August during the doctor's trial in Nuremberg, Germany. It establishes that voluntary consent is essential, that experiments must yield fruitful results for society, and that subjects can end either their participation can end their participation at any time.
Yep.
Um, list okay, so they don't have 10 here, but voluntary consent, prior knowledge, risk and safety, and right to withdraw are, I guess, the four major pillars
Yeah.
within the
And these
10
are
things.
they're all legally enforceable. All of them. That's why they write, like we said this before in the previous episodes, that's why they write the consent forms the way that they do. Because you have to understand why are they doing it that way, how they're doing it that way. There is no real force, even though people are like, oh, they're forcing me to do this and that. Like, no, you signed a consent, and a consent that you could easily walk away from. And even if they hassle
If you
you
can
for it.
give
So
consent, you can revoke consent.
that's right. Absolutely. And that's what all of those things are set in place for. So, and yeah, and it's fully enforceable in the United States. I don't know how enforceable it is anywhere else, but it's enforceable here.
I hope it's
So,
enforceable in Germany since it came from Germany, but I don't know.
We
I
would
wasn't.
one would
Yeah,
might think,
I
but
wasn't in
we
their law library. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure. Hopefully, but it should be enforceable everywhere. But that's just something to look into. But
Right.
the other thing you were talking about was that you wanted to get into.
You you say how the physical laws and non-physical laws work together. They have to be regulated. The medical industry is how them stop us from from learning how to regulate and making that a second nature.
Right.
It's very juicy. So whatever
So
comes to your mind, however you got this laid out, let's hear it. I'm all ears.
yeah, so our brain and our heart work a very specific way. They both create neurons, like they you have brain neurons and you have heart neurons, right? And both of them produce these neurons, and that's totally verifiable with mainstream science. And it's not everybody knows that the heart creates neurons as well, but it's pretty. I think it's probably pretty common knowledge at this stage. So if you didn't know that, understand that it's not just your brain that produces neurons; your heart does too, which is a very interesting concept. It's a very interesting thing that it happens. And so when you understand how the brain and the heart work and how the neurons work in them, um, and how those two work together, and then you put that side by side with the idea of, well, what you might call spirituality, I would just really call, the metaphysical, non-physical
Hmm. The unseen,
aspects of
sometimes I call it.
reality. Yeah, like the laws of reality, like how that works when you're talking about things like cause and effect, um, attraction, polarity, stuff like that. This would be like when I started looking into that, and I started also looking into the same at the same time. I also study the work of Ernest Holmes, Joe Dispenza, and I've been
Hmm.
reading some of the work of Edgar Cayce, all of them having different like faith system backgrounds,
Hmm.
but all essentially coming to the same kind of conclusions that when we're functioning, like our brain and our heart is functioning and regulated properly, then we're going to have, and we're actually like communicating properly through our, we have our thoughts, emotions, and actions in order, and we're using the method of, say, what Dr. Joe Dispenza uses as far as like how he uses manifestation, like the
Hmm.
stuff that he does. And Ernest Holmes says the same thing, and even like some of the work in Edgar Cayce, there's a lot of work that echoes, and I'm sure many other um, doctors who have like written about or experienced this stuff, like or talk about this stuff. So
If people out there are not familiar yet with the telepathy tapes, you need to be. The telepathy tapes is it's a podcast. Okay, started out with 10 episodes, but it is and almost that not only are these abilities available to human beings, but also there is something very interconnected and standing with the illusion of very powerful that ensures most human beings cannot and will never tap into any of these abilities. Not just not just mind to mind communication, by the way, but also not extreme stuff like water bending or anything like that either. Okay, you're not going to swing a sword and the sword's going to catch on fire in midair. It's not going to happen. But you might be able to do certain other things. Regardless, that's not what it's about. The telepathy tapes shows us that there is an apparatus of people that are connected that are suppressing information crucial to knowledge of self. And that's the point that I wanted to add. Also, you were talking about the heart and brain operating in a specific way. I just wanted to bring up the word coherence as the concept of when your actions, your emotions, and your thoughts are aligned in the same general direction. And when they're aligned, especially in the general direction of seeking truth or spreading truth, or serving truth, then then you have like a super coherence, because now you also have a spiritual aspect to that alignment. Um, Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I even hesitate to call it spiritual, like spirituality, because the way that I'm looking at it from this point is it's science. You've
Hmm.
got the physical aspects of it, and you've got the non-physical aspects, and either way, it's working functionally, mechanically. There, it's mathematical, it's science, and it's like you can equate that to spirituality. Um, but because it works so hand in hand, it's like clearly by design,
Hmm.
that way. And so there does have to be, like, that's why it's so important to regulate and take care of these things. Like, you want to take care of your physical body as much as you got to take care of your non-physical body, as much as you do your physical body. Right. So, like, it's good input. You got to put good
Good
stuff in
output.
there, right?
Yeah.
Good input, good output. And, like,
Garbage
energy
in,
goes where
garbage out.
attention flows. So, like, if you're putting, like, Dr. Joe Dispenza, like, kind of describes like a funnel system. So, like, the more you, like, bring in that focus like this, the closer you're going to get to that point where you're going to actually manifest what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Go ahead.
the point you were talking about, where, like, I I kind of feel like there's a cheat code that's been sort of discovered in a way, where, like, most people, they're like, oh, it's all conditioning through, like, social media and movies, and with government and politics and the news media and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And yeah, like, that's like tried and true tactics when it comes to, like, how you're I'm going to control a population. But there's now the easy way. It's
Mm.
the easy cheat code, I would call it. And that is the route through the medical industry. You have to, like, look at how many people are actually sick today, and look at that, compare that to the numbers of how many people were sick 200 years ago, 100
Yep.
years ago. It's like, it's mythology to think that, oh, people were dying younger. I mean, people die younger today.
I was
And
gonna say, and the first argument they meet you with is, "Oh, but a shorter lifespan. Oh, but a
yeah,
shorter
and
life expectancy."
there's plenty of people who have short lifespans today. There are people who are born with chronic conditions like myself, called child's diseases, and we're given shorter lifespans. So that happens still today. That's
And
not
there
like
are
gone away or anything.
and there are
And
people in history over 100 years old recorded, and it wasn't that weird, right? It
yeah,
wasn't like people were traveling for miles to come see this 96-year-old lady because she's gonna be 104 years. Like that.
yeah,
That's not what happened, because it wasn't. I don't trust certain statistical record keeping organizations. I don't trust certain ones. I only half trust the rest. I'm not gonna lie,
yeah.
but I don't
No,
want
I
to
mean,
deviate too far. Yeah.
you don't want to, like, just sit there and believe every statistic or everything that you hear on the internet, or even that you read in a book or see on a YouTube podcast or whatever it is. You want to, like, back that up with data, and, like, personally. And like, usually, like, a kind of a tried and true method is if, like, you see the same thing over and over again through different eras, and not just like a handful of the same, like, clicky group. It's like very different people with, like, who are, like, not really connected to each other, all kind of the same thing. Then, it's a good chance that there's something to it. So you want to, like, really look into that. And through history, we have people living to be 80, 90, 100, 120, and there's plenty of them. Like, that's not it wasn't that unusual. And even today, people happen, it is mythology that People are worse off in the past than they are today. That is complete medical misinformation that people spread. They want to think because we have modern medicine today, that somehow means that we're better off and we're living longer and we're healthier. That is a complete fiction. People are sicker than they have ever been. So, like, look at the numbers of how chronic people are today, like how sick. Everybody's got a medical condition. If they weren't born with it, then they developed it or they somehow got it through maybe even medical malpractice, because that's definitely happened as well.
Mm-hmm.
Or they had an accident and something happened, or they're disabled somehow. There's so many people who are in chronic conditions and have to deal with the medical system, and that number has been rising for decades. And people want to like act like that's like not the case. And I'm like, and then in the same time they want to say, oh, but we're healthier than we've ever been. I call like, BS on that. That's not true.
What it is we have machines that can keep our dead brain moving enough to not die fully. Because we'll have dead brains in toxin sacks walking around, and I'm being a little brazen, but you know, we'll be headed out the door. We have machines that will elongate that process. We don't necessarily live healthier that much longer now than we did, and especially not here in America, where our ingredients list on our cereal box is a damn Walmart shopping receipt. You know what I'm saying? Like, the ingredients is this long on the cereal box.
It shouldn't be
and
that.
That's just the cereal box. Let's not look at the pancake mix. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I mean, like if you go and you buy butter at the grocery store and it says anything other than like milk,
right? Orange.
Then don't buy it. Like there are brands where you can look at the ingredients and the butter will say ingredients, milk. That's the only thing you want.
My wife is in the chat. She does ingredients. She knows the ingredients.
I've been doing that like since like my kid was a toddler, and I've been like I'm like in the store reading the ingredients. And like I'd have people who would be like, do you even understand what those words mean? I'm like, yeah, I do. Do you? Do you want to have a conversation about this? And no, they don't. Of course they don't.
Dipholdrextinate.
I'm like, then mind your business. Move along. Like, what are we doing then? You know? So, but yeah, she's right. Chronic conditions have definitely risen since 2019, but it's been rising easily since the 60s. Like maybe even a little bit before that, but it's actually been rising for decades. And it's definitely like got a lot of traction now. Now,
2019 is COVID era.
Right.
So we like got the shock and we got all of this. I don't mean to cut you off, but we got, a whole lot as far as the medical industry using this cheat code in 2019 and through 2022. All at once, big blows, right? To the mass psychosis argument, big, huge additions.
Yeah, they tried their hand, and it worked in a lot of places, but it didn't really fully work here. And people are like, "Oh, it totally worked in the States," and I'm like, "No, it didn't work here as well as they would have wanted it to. Like, it worked only to like a certain degree, because." We have things like HIPAA. We have things like the Nuremberg Code. We have things like certainly the majority of the country is still armed. We have like definitely a different mentality generally here. Like there is a smaller percentage of the population who I think were highlighted where on like news media. And I think they're a small percentage of the population, but they were highlighted in a way to make it look like they were like most of the population or even at least over 50%. And I think that is manipulative. I think that is not correct what we were seeing with any of that. So what I mean by like the cheat code being something that the medical industry and the pharmaceutical companies are kind of doing here is like involved in is or has been the last several decades is that because like you can't just say the medical industry is like evil because it's not like it's really just a tool. It's just a system that can
I
be
mean, right.
used or not used, right? And
The
like it's
people in
about how it's
charge,
used. It's the
right? The people
people in charge. Yeah,
on
it's
a
the
case by
people,
case basis can be judged whether they're
right?
evil or good. Go ahead.
Because I know both good and bad, and I know people who like constantly get like crap from their bosses because they're trying to do like what's actually right for their patients. And so they get a lot of like crap for that. So anyway, like we have to understand like and it's mostly pharmaceutical issues. Pharmaceutical drugs that are produced. Like they're like, "Oh, they all come from plants." They try to like tell you that, and it's like, yeah, a lot of them do derive from plants. However, and they do use plants for a lot of medicine. However,
Hmm.
they use both poisonous plants and plants that aren't poisonous. And they have to like, synthesize it or like whatever in a lab to like actually turn it into medicine. But they add in a lot of other stuff as well that they don't actually need. So the majority of pharmaceuticals coming out of any pharmaceutical company, like they're all kind of poison, all of them across the board. And it's not just with like, shots. It's with anything. And people are like, well, what do you mean? You mean like ibuprofen? Like all of them.
Yeah.
All of them are some degree of toxin that you're consuming, whether they benefit you or not. And in nature, if you know about like how medicine works, usually a lot of the antidotes and like cures and treatments, they come from poisonous plants. So, and they come from stuff that are toxins. And so like they use them as well. They get antidotes that way for
Yeah.
things.
And
So,
we got another very relevant comment. Legit poisonous chemicals in the package insert. And if you don't know what a package insert is, good people, it's basically the full ingredients list. So sometimes you gotta scan a QR code and go see it on the web page, or you open up the package and then you unfold the thing and it has all of the ingredients or whatever. It has all the information that they are legally required to disclose about this product
yep.
to the
Yep.
consumer. So
And
the
as
package
TD,
insert, real quick, Sarah,
yeah,
the package insert will list things that are like level one carcinogens and like that might not be the correct terminology as far as level one, but like top tier carcinogens in the ingredients list.
yep,
Right, and then somewhere else in the insert or somewhere else on the web page, it'll say, everything was FDA approved as far as the dosage count and shit like that. It's like, well, okay, well, there's people at the FDA that go to dinner with y'all, so I don't care
yeah.
about that. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, FDA doesn't necessarily mean like safe. It means
It means
FDA approved.
FDA.
It,
It means
it
the American government.
yeah. Well, no, it really just means approved. It was approved through their system, like, um, but yeah, it's just like that's why you have to look at this stuff. Like, I'll see if I can find one for next week, and I can show you guys how like it's a big, huge piece of paper, and it could be tedious to like look at this stuff, but it's you got to read this stuff like to really understand it. It's like kind of I think it's kind of fascinating, but it's also kind of horrifying. You're just like, and most of that stuff doesn't really need to be in there. It's like there's dyes, so it looks a certain color.
Right.
There's all kinds of stuff in there that like they put fluoride in it. They put arsenic in pharmaceuticals. Now, one of the things I was going to bring up too is like, so especially with keeping us dysregulated, this is a cheat code that I am convinced that this is a thing, that this is how they're doing it, like a cheat code in the system. Doesn't matter how much you're against the general system, doesn't matter like how much you speak out, doesn't matter how much you protest, doesn't matter how much you hate the system, however it
Mm-hmm.
works out. When your body, and especially your mind, the spirit side of that,
Mm-hmm.
is being uh when that's being like halted, when that's being
Like
barred,
targeted.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like it's like
Mm-hmm.
when you're being stunted is the
Okay.
word I want to use. Like it's very difficult for you to actually produce anything effective that's going to lead to long-term effects, like say like with like if your body is like physically like drained, or physically
Yeah.
you're disabled, or you're chronically ill, this physicality, this condition in the physical world can really hold back if you're not fighting against this particular problem all the time. If you're not fighting it back, that can hold back your non-physical body. That can hold back your spiritual development. It can hold back like what you have the capability of being able to do in anything. Like when your physical
Right.
body is being stunted, and how you stunt a physical body is by poisoning it or
Over
disabling it,
and
and
over
over
and
and over
over
and
again.
over again. And then you've got,
If I can add to this a little bit,
yeah,
actually, if y'all don't know, it starts in the womb.
yes,
Okay,
yes,
ultrasounds
thank you.
hurt babies. I know that's a bubble buster, but ultrasounds hurt unborn babies. They do because it's like super sound going and hitting a being that has not developed the epidermis, what is it called, epidermis,
Yeah,
your layers of protection yet. It's still
yeah,
building that part, and these sound waves are just vibrating the thing to produce a physical image.
yeah,
And again, I know that's a bubble buster, but the torture starts in the poisoning, the whatever you want to call it, starts in the womb. And then you go to public school and you're under fluorescent lights for
all day
8
long.
hours.
Yeah, every office
And
building,
every
every
or almost
like,
every day for 180 some days a year. And they're trying to make that more days,
mhm.
right? And then by the time you're in second grade, you're screen addicted. So you go home and you don't ever go out to the natural light. You go home, it's still sunlight outside for most of the year, but you're going inside to go watch some screens and go
Yeah,
play, you know, play with some controllers that make the screen do things that you want it to do
yep.
or
And
whatever.
the blue light is just like rotting your eyes out.
And then they got right, the blue light. And then you're eating a bowl of cereal while you're watching Dragon Ball Z. You know
That's
what I'm
full
saying?
of
With the
like
laundry
refined
list
sugar and
of ingredients,
fluoride
exactly.
and poisonous, cancerous dyes and all kinds of stuff.
So while I'm naming a lot of things that are like, personal choice kind of things because that is important, and parental choice kind of things because that's very important. I'm also describing the normalized behavior of your average human being. And
Yeah,
what's important to know is that the story that you're going to tell yourself about what's normalized from the time that you were in the womb, okay, around you, is not a story of I need to discern these things and I need to, be on my P's and Q's. No, it's going to be, well, Sally's okay. Sarah's okay. Look at Sarah. She's fine. You know? John is cool, and he does this. And so that story is going to run from the time that you start telling yourself that story about whatever the behavior is that somebody says, actually, that's poisonous.
yeah. They shrug it off. They don't care. Like they're like, well, it never did me any harm. And I'm like, you wouldn't even know. You can't like,
Our clothes are made of plastic and we're squeezing plastic on our
yeah.
privates all day long.
I tell people like when you buy new clothes, wash your clothes immediately before you wash it in hot water. Wash all your clothes in hot water and before you choose to wear them, because They're full of formaldehyde that can absorb into your skin.
Yep.
That's cancerous. And
And then the polyester and the
people are always confused about that.
nylon, yeah, it's
They're
all
like, really? And I'm
it's
like,
squeezing your waist, and it's it's all up against your junk all day.
right.
Bras for women, like the whole thing,
It's
and you're
certainly wouldn't
sweating,
help with circulation.
you're sweating, and your pores are opening and closing, and it's hot, cold, and it's just squeezed by Of course, you're eating plastic by wearing these clothes.
Yeah, and people are wondering why we have plastics in
Exactly.
our system.
Shout
And
out
it's
to
like
this
because
bottle.
we absorb all this stuff in our
Yeah.
environment. So like it's in like I'm glad you said something about it starts in the womb, because I've been saying this now for so long. I've been saying this easily for like the last 2 years, looking into this stuff. It's like when I realized it, I was like, dude, this does start in the womb. And people are always confused by that, because they're like, oh, but people have a choice and people can, yeah, all of that, right, when they're adults. But you have to understand, like, it's not just ultrasounds with the womb. Say you have a pregnant woman, and with today's society where everybody's sick, and even more so, everybody's mentally ill. There's like so many mental illnesses now. They're just like coming out of the woodwork. Everybody's, and it's just like, even if a woman's like, oh, I've got anxiety, which is not everybody can have like the really rare, like, brain, where it's like an
I know what you're
actual
talking about.
brain dysregulation where you like
Yeah, I know a
have an
couple people that
actual,
got it for real.
yeah. And it's like, but everybody like claims, oh, I've got anxiety
Right.
because like of like little things. That's not anxiety. It's actually a normal response to have anxiety over the condition of the world right now. Of course, it's like everybody would be anxious over it because you don't know what's going to happen next. So
Right.
that's not a mental illness, and it shouldn't be medicated.
Right.
But doctors are medicating people who come in with a little bit of anxiety over whatever. Like I just saw one clip of some lady saying that she tells the DoorDash people to not knock on the door when they deliver because it gives her anxiety. And she's actually equating that. This is all self-diagnosis stuff. I can tell the real thing.
Mm-hmm.
She's actually equating that, saying that she has PTSD and it gives her anxiety like this, like super dramatic. And I'm like, stop right there. Like I knew it was like BS the moment she said it. And I'm like, stop. And so like, it's just some Instagram reel. I was like totally, of course, outrage material. Right.
Yeah,
so, like,
yeah. Rage bait.
it's definitely that. And so like the thing is say you have a pregnant mother, she has anxiety, right? And it's just a little bit of anxiety. It could be anxiety because she's pregnant and there's a lot of things that could go wrong, and there's a lot of stresses over that, and there's a lot of like
and
stuff going on in her environment, and
abrupt and huge.
Right. And so she's pregnant and the doctor prescribes her anxiety medication, right? She's taking that, which is going to have fluoride in it. It's going to probably have arsenic in it. And a lot of these drugs that are for like mood stabilizer drugs have something called ergot in it, which is a mold that is poisonous and can cause things like hallucinations and cortisol and dopamine irregulation within the body. So a lot of these drugs have this in it. They put ergot in these mood stabilizers. And so now that woman throughout her pregnancy is taking consistently a poison every single day. Now that's just on the low scale. What about if the woman was bipolar or diagnosed bipolar? Do you think a pregnant woman is being told by her doctor to go off of dangerous bipolar medications like, say, gabapentin, which is extremely
nope.
Like you shouldn't be taking that unless you are actually really, really needing it, and you are like a very specific type of bipolar, and you're genuinely bipolar, which is it's a brain dysregulation that you're born with. So, and people are being given this stuff whether they're bipolar or not, just because some doctor diagnosed her as that, and they might not even be diagnosing her as that. They
Uh-huh.
might be giving her something like gabapentin because it helps with mood swings and pain, like extreme amounts of pain. It has other side effects to it as well
Yeah.
that they use for treatment, right?
And
And this woman's pregnant taking something as dangerous as gabapentin. What do you think that's going to do
with the
to a
baby.
developing fetus
Yeah.
in the womb?
Yeah.
So,
Um
like, it's
and
just crazy to me. People don't like think about this stuff.
some side effects that the baby might be and this is just a Google search, mood stabilizer drugs, negative effects. If you ever search up a pharmaceutical or a pharmaceutical category and you type negative effects at the end of the search, it's important that you read that information. At least so you're aware. Okay? I'm not telling you to make your final decisions off of one Google search, but at least be aware of these two words after the name of your whatever it is. So we got weight gain, head tremors, digestive upset, nausea, fatigue, kidney dysfunction, thyroid problems, lithium toxicity causing confusion, slurred speech, vomiting, hair loss, rare liver or pancreatic damage, dizziness, headache, insomnia, rare dangerous skin rash. You know what I'm saying? So you know, we're not talking about a specific drug or a specific drug company because we don't get paid enough to do all that on this channel. But we got to be aware of what they feed us at all times. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and just like understand what you're like read the language. Take the time to understand it. And when the big words come up, that's what we have dictionaries for. We now have them digitally. Like it's not like an issue like to look at it. I mean, I used to like I read a lot. Obviously, I've always read throughout my entire life. And it used to be if we didn't understand a word, we had to actually like write the word down
Mm-hmm.
and go and like look at a physical dictionary manually afterwards. And it was like so much more harder. But like today, you can just like, zip it up on your like whatever phone, the handy like internet device in your pocket, and
Right.
like find it out in like 3 seconds. And
Right.
people still don't do that. And I'm just like, why aren't you doing that? And it's just so like, yeah, like this is stuff that's obviously like, it kind of makes me a little bit crazy because it should be like so obvious. And like, if you're a regulated adult,
Yeah.
who then you would be, people did this. People used to do this. It used to be normal for
Well,
people
and the
to,
principle would be important to you if you were regulated because
right.
because the state of the world right now requires people of sane mind to have at least that degree of self-control.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Where you realize, "Oh, I don't know something important and I have a means to learn at least the surface level about it in 2 seconds. Let me go ahead and use that."
Right. The tools are there. Use them. And so, like, the cheat code is like, I'm not saying don't use the medical industry if you have to, don't use pharmaceuticals if you have to, but do your research and know what you're getting into. Understand that in that system, you're medically experimenting. You're choosing to go into the experiment, and like I'm with having cystic fibrosis, there's no alternative system for me. There's no alternative for people who are like chronic and have rare conditions because there's no natural homeopaths who actually who are studying genetics the way that some of these scientists are. And like luckily enough with like the case with cystic fibrosis, the people who do study it, they're all very like directly connected. Like the majority of them have like a child or a sibling, or they came from a parent, or like it's a direct relationship.
Yeah.
And like that's the one good thing you can see. That's why you have to like look at these things individually as
Right.
well, and not just throw the whole baby out with the bathwater. Because like with the cystic fibrosis world, there's not that many people who actually want to deal with cystic fibrosis. They're just like, nah, F that. Like, I'm not interested because it's like so bizarre and complicated.
Hmm.
But it's just you have to really like go into detail with this stuff. So like
Yeah.
you have to understand, like read what the information really is. And if you don't have to associate it with it at all, then don't. Just don't. Like if you don't need it, dude, there are people who lived over 100 years. They do it today. There are people who they're old men and old women, never been to a hospital, never seen a doctor, never got, any kind of shot, never took like a pharmaceutical drug, never even took any natural medicine, and had like accidents, like, oh, I broke my arm, I just like kind of wrapped it back together, or like old school, like, or like, oh, my eyeball popped out, I just popped it right in and had a black eye for a couple of weeks. And they just like, they're just resilient, and like they don't like, oh, I had a stroke last week, but it's fine, I like didn't even get
Yeah. Yeah.
like there are people like that
It was
out
crazy. I couldn't open my left eye. I was.
yeah. And so like this is why I say, like, even though we're like fundamentally like the ingredients are all like kind of the same, our
Mhm.
biologies all work differently. And
Right.
it's like, and you have to think about people who are like that. Again, that's them using the power of like their, whether they
The
recognize it
unseen.
or not, the power of the unseen, the power of the like rules of reality,
Right.
how it functions non-physically, in regards to stuff like manifestation, where they're just like, oh, it's fine. And they don't fret or stress out about it. They don't allow it to build up as trauma in their system. And they just move on with their day.
Yeah.
And they're just like snappy on with it, and it's
And,
kind of an amazing thing
hmm.
to
Hmm.
witness that. Like,
Yeah.
I think they're
No,
just
I've
walking,
seen
they're
it.
just
I've seen it
walking
in
it
my
off.
own life because so when I met my wife Tensi, in 2015, I met her like a week and a half before her mom revealed that she had been diagnosed with cancer, and through adhering to universal principles that go against our conditioned intuition, not our real intuition, but our conditioned intuition. Um, Doing things like singing to herself, regulating herself in various ways, she was able to not only go into remission a year later from that diagnosis and be completely cancer free still to this day, but also did something that I was told was impossible, which is she got rid of her type 2 diabetes in the first 3 months of doing this work against in her fight against cancer. So, and it was more stuff, but no chemo. Really, really powerful story. Really powerful story. We've told it like 1,000 times, and I don't tell it as well as my wife does, so I don't try to recap the whole thing. But yeah, I've seen that truth in my own in someone else's life that's near me. Also, my wife knows someone, or maybe more than one person. I'm thinking this is one person, one specific person, though. Reverse cystic fibrosis naturally somehow, and she reiterated your point. Everyone's body is slightly different, which is very true. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Yeah, and that's why they have to have a list of side effects on everything, because it's like what affects me is not necessarily going to affect you. Like I may not get the side effect that you are getting. And that's why some people are like, oh, you're that didn't bother me none. And it's like it's because your body isn't like allergic to that particular poison, and mine is. And that's what's happening there. That's what a side effect is. You're having a negative response to the poison. So, and yeah, I would like to know more about that particular story. The thing I would say that the majority of chronic conditions are I'd say most of them even are man made or
Hmm.
man induced. I would say most of them are fully curable. Um, dude, like 300 years ago, we didn't have all of these genetic conditions and chronic conditions so many of them just did
It's
not
up like
exist.
4,000%. It's
Autoimmune
crazy.
disease did not exist. Like, I don't think it existed at all. Stuff like Lyme disease didn't exist. There's a lot of stuff that, like gluten allergies, non-existent. Most of the allergies that people have today are probably due to like
The
pharmaceuticals,
yeah, yeah,
really.
yeah. The
So,
specific farmies.
right. And so, I would like to know more about that story. Like the thing with cystic fibrosis and why people don't typically, who go into the medical field, typically don't want to work with cystic fibrosis is because it's a genetic mutation. And what happens is you're born with these a genetic mutation, the CFTR gene, and which is mutated, and this gene regulates the chloride in your system, and that produce like that's the salt content in your body. So like how you regulate, body temperature, how you produce sweat, how you regulate the mucous membrane in your system, and it's like connected to like a bunch of stuff. Like the CFTR gene is very important in the system. It does a very vital role. And so with cystic fibrosis, you're born with a mutated version of it. Now, the tricky part to that is that there are like thousands where it's like, yeah, it's like hundreds of different mutations of the CFTR. So you have hundreds of different mutations that people could be born with. And it varies. It's a spectrum from very,
Right.
very mild to very complicated.
As
And then,
as all biological things are. Go ahead.
right. And then you have combinations. We have combinations of these mutations. So we're born with more than one of this mutation. And they could be different mutations that also don't work. They're doing this, they're constantly fighting each other. And so it becomes progressive. And that's why we all have different problems. We all pick up all these other chronic conditions as a result of it. And we were completely dysregulated physically as a result. Now, there are always mutations being discovered with cystic fibrosis. I would not fully discredit somebody saying they had cystic fibrosis and they reversed it. The I would say the real terminology would have to be that they corrected it, because the mutation would have to be corrected to be producing, the gene produces every 24 hours, so it has to be like corrected in a way that produces the correct mutation that you're supposed to have every day, right? And so there are so many different mutations, and it wouldn't surprise me if there were some mutations that actually could be fully properly corrected
Hmm.
through the right kind of treatments. And some mutations are very, very severe, and people have very bad problems as it. And I was kind of lucky. I'm sort of in the middle. And I've
Hmm.
struggled with this kind of science my whole life and figuring out the little details of it. So I'd love to know more about that story, because
Word.
where there's always new stuff coming up. And it was like something about 10 years ago or something like that. Maybe it was a little bit more, that they actually kind of figured out that even people who don't have active cystic fibrosis can still have dormant mutations and have complications that are cystic fibrosis related. And
Absolutely. Go
so
ahead.
it's
Yeah, I think we can
it's still a
definitely
large mystery.
got you. And a lot of these pharma induced conditions are. I think we can definitely get that person's, if it's just one person. I think it is. I'm my mind is trying to. I feel like I remember us talking about it one day. But anyway, I think we can get a testimony, and I'd be able to bring it up like next Wednesday or maybe the Wednesday after or something like that. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I'd
yeah,
love to talk to the person, and or
right.
even
Or just yeah, we'll
hear
see.
what
We'll
they
see.
have to
Yeah,
say. because I'd
Yeah,
be
because
interested. I always want to know more information about it,
mhm,
obviously.
absolutely. Yeah, that'll be fun. Sara Cross. It is 55 minutes and 1 second on this episode. Um, this is a thing. We made it official. um, guys, every Wednesday, at least for right now, right? Keep it real informal around these parts. We got Wednesday Tea featuring Sara Cross here on the channel. So please be on the lookout for that. Also, tomorrow, Friday, I have a surprise interview. I just want to say it's going to be a monumental meeting of the minds. It's going to rock your world at its core, and you should definitely tune in live and be in the chat. Give us some be in the comments if you will, so that we can have some energy to bounce off of. But I got a surprise interview coming Friday, and we might make his day a Friday thing, and we might do a series with this guy because we're very, very, very aligned in how we think, how we approach distributing information, and how hardcore we are as far as anarchy goes. So that's going to be fun. Look out for the interview on Friday. Thank you so very much for rocking out with us again on the channel. Sara, can you please tell the people your link and whatnot?
Well, if you just go to Linktree, it's /Sara_Cross, where I update everything on like all the platforms that are there whenever I have something to update. But you can go to the Linktree and bookmark it, and you'll find books and all the stuff I do.
Yeah, books, Twitch channels for live streams when she's playing the video game, talking some smack. Um, Time Strider Radio episodes, the whole history. You find a whole
Yep.
bunch of stuff there. Books, find a whole bunch of stuff there. Magazine.
Yep. And just, it's just the stuff that I do. So it's hopefully it can help somebody learn some information that they might be missing some of the pieces.
Yep, yep. And always remember, good people, around here, it's about what story are you willing to live. We will see you tomorrow. Peace and love always in all ways.